Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks for starting your day with us. We're going to begin again today with the hush money trial of former President Donald Trump. Michael Cohen, the state's final witness and the former fixer and lawyer for former President Trump, will return to the stand this morning to face more cross-examination.
Earlier this week, Cohen testified that Mr. Trump instructed him to buy the silence of adult film star Stormy Daniels. He says it happened in the lead up to the 2016 election in an effort to conceal an alleged sexual encounter, which Mr. Trump denies. The defense began its cross-examination on Tuesday by attacking Cohen's credibility. They say he was motivated by revenge and fame rather than justice. Outside of the courtroom, President Biden and Mr. Trump agreed to 2 debates ahead of the general election. The first is coming quickly. It's scheduled for June 27th. The second is set for September 10th. This agreement came hours after Mr. Trump responded to this challenge by President Biden by posting on social media, quote, "Let's get ready to rumble."
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
The UFC energy here. All right, let's get to our team standing by. We're going to start things off with NBC News correspondent Dasha Burns and our legal analyst Danny Savalos. Dasha, let's talk about the hush money trial. It resumes today after an off day, no court on Wednesdays. Day 1 of Cohen's cross focused on his motivations. Tell us what NBC News is learning about what the defense is expected to focus on today.
Yeah, Joe, good morning. Sources are telling us that the defense is going to focus today on Cohen's past lies and his lies in 2016 and 2017. Now, this is something that the jury has been primed for by the prosecution. The jury knows Cohen has a history of lying. He has a criminal history. But this is the key to undercutting his credibility that the defense is going to try to paint him as an unreliable narrator. Cohen's going to say, which he said before, that he lied to protect Donald Trump. He did this all in the service of his former boss. But the first stab at the cross-examination by Todd Blanche, and I'm sure Danny will get into this, by legal experts has largely been baffled legal experts because it was a little bit scattershot. It was a little bit winding, didn't tell that super clear story. So we'll see how Todd Blanche comes at it again today as he tries to poke holes in Cohen's story and, again, just paint him as an unreliable liar to the jury.
Danny, what do you make of that strategy? How could this go for them, focusing on those lies from previous years?
This is cross-examination of a cooperating witness 101, standard procedure. The challenge, I think, for the defense has been that there's just so much material with a Michael Cohen that how do you organize it? And I think that's what the defense has been struggling with, is going after him, but deciding where to begin and where to go with each step. They didn't seem to start in some chronological order. They kind of wandered about. Maybe they'll be more focused today. They have to be. They really have to focus on the lies that Cohen told and his motivation to be there. But they also need to walk the line and make some tough choices. You could cross-examine Michael Cohen about all his inconsistencies and all of his other flaws for days and days and days. But at some point, the jury is going to be thinking, we got it. We understand this is overkill. So where is that line? It's a real challenge for the defense. And keeping in mind, every single question you ask this witness, he's looking to throw it back in your face. So you have to craft these questions perfectly. You have to be a wordsmith, you have to be efficient, and you don't want to keep him on the stand any longer than you absolutely need him.
Cohen is expected to be the state's final witness. Does that surprise you at all? Do you think an expert would need to come in to tie it all together? I mean, where does the trial go from here?
Yes and no, and I think it's even a surprise on some level to the prosecution. I mean, they deliberately called him close to the end, but I think their plan was to call maybe one more witness after Cohen. Whoever that was, we may never know. They've decided not to call that witness. I do think it's a bit of a challenge to call Cohen last because the last thing the jury hears, and this is probably the last witness in the entire trial, the last thing they're going to hear is presumably the defense skewering this witness on cross or recross. Maybe they clean it up a little on redirect, but this may not leave the jury with a good taste in their mouth about the overall prosecution. So maybe if they had it to do over, they would have put him second to last, third to last, something like that. But look, things happen in trial. You have to make game time decisions the prosecution and the defense have to do every minute.
Dasha and Danny, thank you both for kicking us off this hour.
Because we've still got NBC News Digital senior political reporter John Allen. He's going to walk us through what exactly to expect from these two presidential frontrunners when they finally face off. John, maybe you can pick up there where we just lost Dasha, talking a little bit about how we got to this point of having these two confirmed debates yesterday morning. President Biden and former President Trump's campaigns went back and forth. Tell us a little bit about this and then what you do expect to see when they do face off.
Yeah, my head's spinning. I was talking to you guys around this time yesterday morning. We had no idea that all of this was going to take place, that we'd have two debates locked in. Look, I think both of these candidates absolutely want to make this a one-on-one race. I think they are concerned about the amount of attention and the amount of support that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has gotten. I think that if Joe Biden felt like he was winning right now, he would not be clamoring for a debate. His campaign was much slower to sort of engage on this debate question. And then all of a sudden yesterday they said, hey, here are the rules we want. Here are the dates we want. We're ready to go when you are, Donald. Trump had been saying anytime, any place. And I think that pushed him into a corner where he couldn't do anything but accept.
So, John, I mean, historically, former President Trump has been pretty unreliable and inconsistent when it comes to debating. Not this time, at least for now. Mr. Trump says not only that he's ready to rumble, but that he'd like to debate President Biden every month until the election. That's probably not going to happen. He's also set the bar for Biden's debate performance pretty low, saying on social media the president is, quote, the worst debater I ever faced. What's his strategy here?
It is what Trump always does, which is to just trash the opposition. And I mean, traditionally, you try as a campaign, as a candidate, to raise the bar for your opponent, to lower the bar for yourself, so that it's easier afterward to be seen as somebody who cleared expectations, and for them to be seen as somebody who didn't meet them. That's just not the way that Donald Trump operates. He is constantly trying to pursue a message of, as his people say, him being strong and his opponent being weak, in this case, Joe Biden. So that's what we're seeing, even though it may make it more difficult for him to be seen after a debate as having exceeded expectations.
John, let's talk about potentially what we could see in terms of a running mate here for the former president. It's interesting that while that's still an open question, we've seen quite a few high-profile Republicans accompany him to his criminal hush money trial here in New York. Do you connect those two things at all? What do we think about who's topping the shortlist right now?
I mean, there's absolutely a competition going on, an audition, a celebrity vice presidential apprentice, if you will. We're watching this saga play out. I think what's unknown is, number one, who is essentially the winner of that, whether you're talking about Governor Doug Burgum, Senator Tim Scott, any of the number of others who have stood by Donald Trump's side, Senator Marco Rubio, Senator J.D. Vance, whether it will be one of those people or somebody who's not even part of the, the sort of competition, as it were. Donald Trump likes to surprise. So we don't know. One day he's going to wake up and decide this is the day that I'm going to announce it, and we will know. But until then, I think it's, it's all for show.
All right. John Allen, always great to have you. Thank you so much.
Here in New York, opening statements are set to resume this morning in the federal bribery trial of New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez. He and his wife are charged with accepting bribes from three businessmen. Those alleged bribes include cash, gold bars, and a Mercedes in exchange for official acts as a U.S. senator. He
and two of the businessmen charged in the case have pleaded not guilty. Here's what Senator Menendez had to say about how opening statements were going so far in court.
How'd it go? I think it went well. My guy was great.
NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian joins us now with the latest. Ken, good morning. So let's start with prosecutors, their opening statement in court. They said Menendez, quote, put greed first and called the alleged bribes, quote, politics for profit. What are some of the key takeaways from what we heard?
Hey, good morning, Joe and Savannah. That's right. Assistant U.S. Attorney Laura Pomerantz gave a powerful opening statement in short colloquial sentences to try to explain this complicated case to these 12 citizens. And as she told it, it was pretty simple. That Robert Menendez, as a senator, as you said, instead of putting the United States of America and his constituents first, he put greed first, he put his office up for sale. And she took the jury through the 3 types of bribes that she said Senator Menendez took, in part through his wife. One was, of course, the cash and the payments to her through a sham consulting contract. Another was the gold bars. And then a third was a Mercedes convertible for her use that was paid for by a business person. And then she took the jury through the 3 types of favors that Senator Menendez did in exchange for these bribes. And she said explicitly this was a quid pro quo, a this for that. She said that he put U.S. foreign policy up for sale and helped the Egyptian government on behalf of an Egyptian business person, including providing sensitive, non-public information to the Egyptian government, the names of U.S. personnel in the embassy. And she said that he interfered in 2 separate criminal cases on behalf of his businessman friends, one a state case, the other a federal case. So it was a really powerful and damning opening statement, which, by the way, was not interrupted at all by objections, in contrast to the defense, guys.
Okay, let's talk defense. So Senator Menendez's attorney said there's no tangible evidence that he accepted a bribe, and then his attorney also put some of the blame on his wife, Nadine. Walk us through the case that they're trying to make to the jury.
Yeah, so interesting. He said, look, Senator Menendez is an honorable, decent public servant. He did not take a bribe. And then he started to transfer the blame for the conduct that these jurors are seeing to the senator's wife, Nadine Menendez, who is not in the room. She's a co-defendant in the case, but she's not on trial. She's suffering from an unspecified medical ailment. And look, the senator's lawyer did not accuse her of committing crimes, but what he said was she had financial problems that she hid from the senator. And he explained that she was soliciting gifts and favors from these businessmen that the senator was not aware of. He even said that some of the gold bars were locked in her closet that the senator had no access to. And he explained the cash by saying that there were innocent explanations, that he will show records that Senator Menendez withdrew $400 and $500 at a clip from his savings account year by year to accumulate this cash. The problem with that is that the prosecutors say that some of that cash has the DNA and fingerprints of some of the alleged bribe payers, guys.
So, Ken, we know opening statements are going to continue today, this time for the 2 businessmen facing trial alongside Menendez. We have to keep that in mind. What can we expect there?
Right. Well, they're going to, we can presume that their lawyers are going to explain that there are innocent explanations for the payments from these men. And look, it is not a crime necessarily for businessmen to pay a U.S. senator's wife, which is what happened here. The prosecutors have to show that there was an explicit agreement. And what Senator Menendez's lawyers are saying is you will not see any explicit agreement for bribes. And that, I have to say, has been the difficult thing for prosecutors over the years in winning these bribery cases. The Supreme Court has made it tougher and tougher to prove this kind of corruption. So we'll have to see whether the Justice Department can do it in this case.
All right, Ken Delanian, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ken. Well, in Galveston, Texas, a barge slammed into a critical bridge, spilling oil into the bay, forcing a shutdown of the span and forcing the Galveston branch of Texas A&M University to close through Sunday. NBC's Priscilla Thompson has the story.
Another scary scene on America's waters.
Any possible boat that hit the bridge and a power line down and maybe fuel in the water.
A barge crashing into a bridge, this time in Galveston, Texas, closing the only road to a small island community and causing an oil spill.
Our emergency management is requesting fire department hazmat. They're advising that there's fuel oil leaking into the water.
The barge holds about 30,000 gallons. Officials say it's unknown how much oil has leaked. The barge owner, Martin Petroleum, says it broke loose from its tow and drifted into the bridge. The accident comes after the Dali cargo ship crashed into Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge in March, plunging the bridge into the water, killing 6.
So we're here today.
The NTSB chair on Capitol Hill.
Yesterday, we released our preliminary report, which shows that the Dali experienced 4 total power outages.
Investigators finding the pilots lost control of the massive vessel right before the collision. The recent rash of barge bridge accidents, including Pennsylvania and Iowa, all raising safety concerns. The NTSB now warning states to examine their infrastructure before it's too late.
Keep reiterating this. If you own a bridge, If a state owns a bridge or other entity owns a bridge, look at the current structure, do a risk assessment. You can do that now.
Officials say there were no injuries, and the owner of that barge, Martin Petroleum, says that the leak that happened as a result of this collision has been stopped, as now there are still more questions about how this happened and what exactly accountability will look like.
All right, Priscilla Thompson, thank you.
Now to the war in the Middle East and Israel's looming invasion of Rafah. Overnight, the Israeli military said that 5 soldiers were killed and 7 injured in a friendly fire incident in northern Gaza. That's where fighting rages on against regrouped Hamas militants in that area. And this morning, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel is moving forward with its planned invasion in Rafah. He expects the offensive against Hamas battalions there will last for weeks. CNBC anchor Sarah Eisen sat down with him for an exclusive interview.
With Israeli troops pushing further into Rafah, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu underscoring in an interview with CNBC, Israel is moving forward with its assault there, and soon.
The intense part of the fighting, the smashing of the battalions, is just weeks away. It doesn't take that long.
So it's a matter of weeks until this is over?
The Rafah operation, if continued as we plan, is a matter of weeks, not months and not years.
Netanyahu undeterred by the growing and vocal opposition from the United States.
Yes, we do have a disagreement on Gaza, on Rafah. But we have to do what we have to do.
After President Biden vowed last week to stop sending certain offensive weapons to Israel if they invade Rafah, signs U.S. military support for Israel is continuing. A U.S. official says the Biden administration has notified Congress they're advancing a potential $1 billion arms sale to Israel. The arms transfer wouldn't happen for several years. Meanwhile, pressure on Netanyahu isn't only coming from other countries, it's also coming from within. Netanyahu's defense minister criticizing him for his indecision on who will govern Gaza and pushing against any notion of Israeli military rule if and when Hamas is ultimately defeated. There's also growing concern of this idea of the forever war. The fear is, as long as Iran continues to fund and help train fighters for Hamas and Hezbollah, the longer the fighting could go on. For NBC News Now, I'm Sarah Eisen in Jerusalem.
Well, this morning, the U.S. is one step closer to getting critical humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza.
The U.S. Central Command successfully installed a temporary pier off Gaza's coast overnight. It will bring in desperately needed food and supplies. The war has put Gaza on the brink of a humanitarian crisis. Little to no aid is flowing through land crossings, and airdrops are limited. Defense officials say in the first 2 days of operating, the dock will deliver more aid than all of the airdrops to date combined.
NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba joins us with more on this U.S. operation. Monica, good morning. So that floating dock system, it's now anchored. Walk us through what's happening over the next 24 hours or so and when that aid is expected to begin.
Well, they believe that it could start to be delivered in the next 24 to 48 hours, but there are a lot of complications to how exactly some of this may get distributed. But remember, this was a major promise from President Joe Biden in his State of the Union address as a way to try to get some of this critically needed aid into Gaza. So essentially, the U.S. military, using nearly 1,000 personnel, has set up this floating dock where then different ships, different vessels, some of them are U.S. government, others are from nonprofits and NGOs that are working to try to get aid into Gaza. They can sort of dock there, they can unload the aid, then the aid can be moved to a causeway and then onto the ground in Gaza, where UN agencies are the ones who are actually then responsible for doing the distribution and trying to get things to the people, the Palestinians of Gaza. But right now, with some of the increased fighting, that has become more difficult and challenging as well.
Yeah, that's the thing, that getting things to people. We have seen the challenges in the past. This dock is anchored at sea. Do we know how they're going to deliver this stuff?
And that has been a major question because there were also these security concerns for U.S. troops. And from the beginning, the Department of Defense and the White House had said that those U.S. troops would not really be setting foot on land in Gaza. Instead, they're handing off the aid to third-party people who are helping essentially from other countries to get it actually onto the land, onto the shore. And then from there, you're seeing some of these humanitarian aid groups help. And remember, it was just some time ago that those aid workers from World Central Kitchen were tragically killed by an Israeli airstrike. then World Central Kitchen paused, in addition to some other humanitarian aid groups saying they didn't want to continue operations in Gaza. But now World Central Kitchen is back, and they're a part of this effort, and they are helping and trying to contribute so that more can get into Gaza.
Yeah, Monica, between the safety concerns of humanitarian workers, like what you just mentioned, what happened with World Central Kitchen, and then also the fact that a lot of these aid routes keep getting shut down, are there concerns that the sea route will face these same challenges as the land crossing? Is the Biden administration confident Israel won't block this?
They say that they are working very closely with Israel, and Israel is providing some broad perimeter security. So they have been a part of these talks, and so far they say that they are allowing that. But it has taken a lot of time to get to this point. And over the last couple of weeks, they cited some weather issues in a slight delay, but also it is these larger security concerns that contribute to this and that have raised some questions about how it's actually going to work. So until we really see it start to happen, we may learn some more of the challenges here. But this is something that, as you pointed out in the intro, they're hoping this will replace airdrops, which have been a little bit inconsistent in recent weeks, and they will be able to get a lot more aid in, though the aid that's coming in through the land crossings is still the largest amount at this point in the war.
Monica Alba, thank you very much.
If you're waking up on the Gulf Coast this morning, you're probably going to feel soaked and soggy. Another day of rain, so let's check out your morning news now forecast.
Michelle Grossman is with us today. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Hey there, guys. Great to see you. Yeah, we have that relentless rain falling in the south over the next few days. We could see up to 7 inches in some spots. This is on top of grounds that are so saturated. So that relentless rain does continue. You can see on radar that heavy rain is falling where you see those darker colors. Also seeing the lightning in parts of Oklahoma, also in Texas, hearing the thunder this morning. And we do have the threat for severe storms as we go throughout this Thursday, later on today, too, into the nighttime hours. So 17 million people under flood watches, where you see the green here from Dallas to Waco, Bryan, Lufkin, into Louisiana, Alexandria, Baton Rouge, Lake Charles, Mississippi, too. We're looking at Jackson, Mississippi. Could see some flooding as we go throughout the day. Could see some flash flooding, too, because we're looking at really low-lying areas are seeing that rainfall as well and seeing the flooding. So the relentless rains with clusters of storms today, they're very slow-moving. They have lots of moisture with them. It's being pulled off the Gulf, and we could see 2 to 3 inches per hour as we go throughout the day today. So we do have that high risk for flash flooding, especially where you see this future cast here. That's kind of indicating where we expect the highest amounts of rain to be falling. And there is a lot of it with those brighter colors. And then there's the severe weather side. 18 million people at risk, especially where you see the yellow and the orange. Dallas to Abilene, Austin, Houston, over to Lake Charles in Louisiana. Could see some really large hail, damaging hail 2 inches or larger. Winds gusting over 60 miles per hour. Remember, that ground is really wet, so any really large wind gusts could bring down some trees and power lines, causing those power outages. And a few tornadoes are possible as well. We're going to continue to watch that throughout the day. Then tomorrow, we'll see those storms racing across the Gulf Coast. We're going to see downpours erupting in the afternoon and the evening, especially right along the central Gulf Coast states. And again, could see additional flooding in some spots and could see the chance again for severe storms tomorrow. That would be Friday. 8 million at risk for really large hail. Once again, winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour, sort of the same scenario as today. And a few tornadoes are possible, especially from Columbus to Montgomery, Pensacola, New Orleans, Alexandria, and Lake Charles. So kind of getting hit 2 days in a row there in portions of Louisiana. Now take a look at this. We do have that flood danger along the Gulf. This is why so far this month we've seen rain totals anywhere from 200% up to 800% above average from Texas to Florida. So you can guess that that ground is super saturated. Any additional rainfall that is falling over the next couple of days cannot be soaked into the ground. That's why we're concerned about the flooding and flash flooding. The highest concerns for flash flooding are from Dallas to Waco, Lufkin, Alexandria. High risk where you see that light pink color, Lufkin, down to Lake Charles. And then tomorrow we're looking at that further to the east, so parts of the Alabama and also into Louisiana. Isolated totals up to 8 inches. Where you see those darker colors, that's the likeliest amounts of seeing the really heavy rain. Otherwise, we're looking at a damp and dreary day in New England. Temperatures right around average, though. Hot and humid in the southeast, sunny and warm from portions of the Intermountain West into parts of the southwest, although New Mexico into the panhandle of Texas, we're looking at that rain falling. Mixed highs across the northeast. We're looking at temperatures in the 60s and 70s, a little below average in New York City, but not bad for this time of year, 66. We'll see some cloud cover, too, as we head on through the afternoon, and 78 degrees in D.C. Back to you guys.
All right, Michelle Grossman, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.